What are you 100% certain is true despite having no evidence to confirm or disprove your belief? Phone and internet providers start out solid and over time purposefully make the product worse to encourage you to upgrade. My bond with my bearded dragon goes beyond he's warm. I understand the limitations of his tiny nervous system and that he isn't capable of affection. I just firmly believe that he not only wants heat and food, but that he finds my presence to be pleasant. That boy will come off his basking log as hot as hell ever need to be, with a belly full of bugs, and still come hauling over, just to fall asleep on me. I don't know what it is, but it's more than just him seeking the necessities. People with lower IQs are happier, because they aren't constantly overthinking, looking for self-transcendence, analyzing everything around them, and expecting too much of themselves. Something in my old elementary school is causing people to get cancer. I lived in a small town, right around 4,000 people. I went to the private Catholic school in the area, which was even smaller. I graduated with 15 in my class and there were less than 300 students total at the time. Despite this very small amount of people, 6 students and faculty members have been diagnosed with cancer over the past 5 years. The odds are so unbelievably slim that I'm sure something cancer causing is in the building, but who knows what or where it is. My co-worker lies about her medical conditions. She lies that she has seizures, and while I can't prove it, I know it's a lie because she'll drive the same day that she claims to have a seizure. Anytime you mention any medical condition, she has it, and it's worse than your case. She has mentioned having toxic shock syndrome, colitis, and a bunch of other things I can't recall at the moment. One day we were talking about autism, and she mentioned that her 22-year-old daughter, who also happens to work with us, was diagnosed as a child. A few days later the daughter casually mentioned that she had found out just recently that she's autistic. I wanted to tell her that she only just found out because her mom just recently made that sharp. There is at least one giant creature deep down in the ocean that we don't know about because we have never seen before. Like maybe one of those megalodons or plesiosaurs. We thought giant squids weren't real until we found one. And also maybe aliens. I like getting carried away with this stuff. And since there's no real 100% evidence that the answer is no, what's wrong with thinking it might be true? Our dog knew my wife was pregnant before she did. Normally she was a sweet and lazy lovable dumbus who would hang out with whoever wasn't moving. The dog, not the wife. Then one day, she decided she wasn't going to leave my wife's side. She wasn't aggressive, but she wasn't going anywhere either. Followed her everywhere for a few weeks. Then spousal unit started getting sick and went to the doctor, and the doctor said, let's check the obvious. And now I have an 8-year-old daughter, and that dog is her constant companion. We are never going to contact intelligent alien life. It probably exists, but the universe is simply too big. We've let ourselves get carried away with sci-fi depictions of impossible technologies that we assume one day we'll be able to cross vast distance in the blink of an eye, but it's more likely that we just can't. That my dad might be alive. He supposedly died in 2009. He was a huge paranoid conspiracy theorist to the point where he would bury his money, planted bushes to hide behind in case the government had a shoot-off with him, and at one point thought we all had been replaced by clones. The only people who saw his body are one of my aunts and my grandma who had Alzheimer's. They told us he was cremated, and at the funeral there was no coffin, no urn. All there was a black and white photo from when he was 10. He was born in the 50s. I've yet to see his urn or death certificate, and it's been 12 years. He had connections to people who could have easily helped him fake his death. He also had the money to do this. People have also supposedly seen him in Indiana. They took a picture and tbh the guy looks just like him, only a bit older. Same hunchback, same tattoo on his leg, and he even walked with the same little limp. I'm convinced that the electronics items sold at steep discounts on Black Friday are the ones that don't test as well at the factory, like when they do quality control tests. The ones that rate 90% or whatever are the ones that are tagged and sent out for Black Friday sales. Whether they realize it or not, even the most sincere people that do reviews for stuff within a certain hobby or interest don't provide their real opinions. If they are too negative about too many products, companies won't send them stuff. If they say stuff too far outside the groupthink of their community, people won't want to watch their channel anymore. As a result, most of them are simply putting their own spin on what the general consensus tends to be. I'm 100% positive my sister died of COVID before COVID was supposed to be in my state. We had something really bad going around in the fall of 2019 and the winter of 2020. It sent many people to the hospital with pneumonia or breathing difficulties. Several customers at my place of work were diagnosed with a lung disease, even though they never smoked. Others coughed up blood. My coworker came to work sick as a dog in January 2020, and I sat across from him at lunch along with another coworker. The next week I got sicker than I have ever been. My sister and her husband also got very ill, even though we hadn't been in contact. I could barely breathe and had to sleep for 3 days leaning upright on the back of the couch. I was so ill I almost broke down and went to the ER, even though at the time I was uninsured and never went to the doctor. My coworker that I got it from went to the doctor and they did a test for the flu, but it came back negative. The other coworker that sat beside me at lunch also got sick, and she too came back negative for influenza. A week later my sister and her husband fell ill and ended up at the doctor's office. They both tested negative for influenza. 2 days after my sister went to the doctor, she got out of bed and fell dead to the floor. That was February 18th, 2020. We assumed she had a heart attack. The cause of death was a heart attack, only because of the sudden death and her history of having a heart attack a few decades before. No autopsy was done, and she was cremated. This was about the same time COVID showed up on the West Coast. We live in North Carolina, and no COVID was supposed to be in the state at that time. My coworker that got it the same time I did had a brother who also had it and ended up in the hospital with a very virulent pneumonia, tested negative for influenza, and died the same day my sister did. I swear to this day my sister and my coworker's brother both died of COVID, but no proof and no way to prove it. Deja vu is the equivalent of you died at some point. This is your respawn. This moment didn't get wiped from your memory. Along with this, some events are destined and unavoidable no matter what you do. What happens in between these checkpoints, however, is within your control. When I was a kid I watched an episode of a pop-up video. I swear there was a blurb in the segment for Madonna's Take a Bow video that talked about her having sex with a bull while shooting this video. They then went on to make blurbs comparing human semen ejaculation to bull ejaculation. Pop-up video seemed to end shortly after this. I have not been able to find this segment of pop-up video anywhere online to prove to myself whether or not what I saw was true. However, I can find record that there was an episode of pop-up video that did include Take a Bow, and there is video of the 2 other segments included in that episode, but Take a Bow is missing. I think this sunk pop-up video and is the reason they've never released the series on DVD. That animals are capable of grief. My dog had a cat. I got the cat from the vet when I went to pick up my dog after a business trip. This very small kitten was in the pen with Angel, and the vet tech told me that they had had a hard time keeping the kitten away from Angel the entire time she had been there. I felt like it would be mean to take her dog away, so brought her home. When Fearless was 7, Angel died. I came home one afternoon and all of Angel's toys were in a corner with Fearless guarding them. She had apparently spent time during the day gathering all of them together. She would also walk back and forth between me and the door talking to me. I know she thought I could open the door and let Angel in. After my mother died I took her dog. I already had 2 other small dogs and they all got along well, so I ran a pack. I lived just across the alley and 1 house down from my mother's house. The house had been up for sale, but there were issues, so from November to September nothing happened. In September the house finally transferred ownership. The same day I came home from work and my mom's dog was so sick. She was vomiting and having bloody diarrhea. I took her to the vet immediately. They were running tests and giving her force, but nothing was making a difference. After 10 days I had to make the decision to have her put down, but I know that the transferring of the house was something she somehow knew. I think until then she just thought she was visiting and would go home, and when she knew she couldn't go home she gave up. I don't have evidence. These instances are for sure observational bias, but I really do believe that animals grieve. The elected officials in DC, including the president, are mere figureheads. Not unlike a monarchy, the truly powerful people are those associated with the industrial/military/financial complex. When I hear the declaration that the US president is the most powerful person in the world, I'm astonished at how naive that sounds. Not all, but most politicians embark upon crusades and agendas based upon the will, not of their constituents, but that of their political contributors. Economic justice, trade unionism, healthcare, these are all placed upon the sacrificial altar by our elected officials, and money always wins.